Okay, how do I define digital fabrication and open design? So I'll take that apart and talk first about digital fabrication and then about open design. Okay, that way. So digital fabrication for me is using a whole digital production chain to design products, turn design information into machine instructions, send the machine instructions to machines that are digitally controlled and that then produce the desired parts through conventional manufacturing technologies such as milling mainly milling, or laser cutting if we're only into the, or through advanced manufacturing methods, additive manufacturing, or what's commonly called 3D printing. So open design to me is an approach where two things are actually made open. One is the design information, so the digital description of pieces or pieces of art or technical parts. Essentially the description of those parts is made open, but also the process of creating those descriptions, those design files, is made open. So it's a combination of freeing up digital information on products as we have it in free and open source software, so that everybody can use it, study it, copy it, change it, and redistribute it. That's one part of it. And the other part is the actual practice that comes down to working together on a digital design of parts or more complex machines. Okay, first this term of the third industrial revolution, that's not my term, that's a term described and defined by Jeremy Rifkin. I think I need to attribute that to him. Now the question is, what is the impact of the third industrial revolution on the economy in general? Like the first industrial revolution in the late 18th and 19th century, the impact of the third industrial revolution is much more than just changing industrial structures. But let's start with the changes in industrial structures that we're going to see. The main change from the former industrial principles to the new industrial principles is that the former principles of industrialization were designed around centralized control and hierarchical structures. And that had a lot to do with the communication technology and energy technologies that were available at that time, which came at high cost, so it made sense to sort of centralize the production of communication and energy. The third industrial revolution is not hierarchically structured, but laterally structured. That means it's structured in networks, like the internet as the main communication technology of the third industrial revolution is a network, is laterally structured. Like the new energy sources, renewable energies, are, if they're deployed properly, are deployed in a network and not with like central wind farms and central solar power stations, but distributed smaller power generation structures that are interconnected in a network. So that's the fundamental techno-structural change that we first will see in industry and in energy supply, but that will have the most important impact on the economy, because traditionally economies have been structured around this hierarchical, top-down, centralized paradigm, and the new paradigm will be the paradigm of networks. As we today experience it in social networks, we will experience network structures in everything that concerns our daily life, and that includes obviously production. I would argue that have lived in a tradition of a rather centralized mindset, and I believe that comes to a large extent from colonial history, where they were sort of subject to a colonial power that, of course, lived to a centralized command and control and structuring approach. Emerging countries, however, are today confronted with extremely rapid changes and with another development that's unlike the development in Western countries. In terms of population, Western countries are at a stagnation, if not shrinking. Emerging countries, they will grow over the next 10, 20, 30 years. And they will grow quite fast. And the world around them is changing fast as well. Now, hierarchical, centralized command and control structures are not good at responding to fast changes. So rather than arguing, are emerging countries well prepared for the changes that are coming, I would argue that they're absolutely in need to find new patterns, how to govern society, how to react to developments, how to not be subject to those developments, but be in control and in mastery of those developments. So they need to find ways how to handle growth, fast technological changes, a fast need to deal with the big problems in society, and that's not how to manufacture the next iPhone. That's how to conserve the environment. That's how to avoid poverty. That's how to achieve equality and fairness in society. And I believe that centralized structures are not good at achieving equality and fairness. Networks are better at achieving equality and fairness. So I see a unique chance for emerging countries to embrace the networked economy to more quickly deal with the changes ahead. In my view, Fab Labs have two important roles, well, maybe three. One, the most obvious role is that Fab Labs are laboratory. The most important role, or the first role, is that Fab Labs are laboratories to actually produce goods in a decentralized networked manner. The second role is that Fab Labs globally are experimenting with network structures and networked projects. So it's a good place to experiment with those structures on kind of a level of developing governance. How do we deal with networks? How do we manage networks? How do networks interact, and how do nodes in a network interact to achieve goals? And the third role is a much more personal one, because Fab Labs give everybody who comes to a Fab Lab and who works at the Fab Lab, they give them the opportunity to personally explore these new paradigms and get on a learning curve ahead of all those people who are still stuck in hierarchical structures. You know, universities as we know them, and particularly university education as we know it, is very traditional. And university education is very slow to change. At the same time, university, when it comes to research and academic discourse, they're quite good at thinking ahead, seeing challenges, seeing changes, analyzing changes, and theorizing about changes. And I believe that's one of the reasons why universities start to embrace Fab Labs, because they see there is a different paradigm emerging, and that's interesting. That's interesting to experiment with. So I believe that the role of universities is to think through the changes that are ahead. The role of universities equally is not to forget what various disciplines already have found about networks and how networks interact, how societies that are not based uniquely on hierarchical systems interact, how traditional communities managed their commons, like their common water resources, in a non-hierarchical way. There is a lot of knowledge in the kind of global university system that is relevant to those changes. I think FabLab Cali can really be seen as one of those places where the people here at the University Rotterdam try to experiment with those structures and try to see, particularly in this typical Cali city setting, with the typical problems that a city of that size has, try to apply what a Fab Lab can bring to the table in terms of development, try to apply that in the real world, not only in theorizing.